morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lord Grub here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering wisdom for living on your Friday morning rise and shine. Wisdom for living this morning here, we're looking at Proverbs chapter 17, verse 13 through 15. Proverbs 17, verse 13 through 15, as we continue to go through the book of Proverbs. And this morning here, we're looking at the topic, justifying the wicked and condemn the just. So justify the wicked and condemn the just is what we're looking at here this morning as we do our live talk program covering wisdom for living. So welcome. Hopefully you had a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on today. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the blessings of this day. We thank you for the blessings, dear Lord, of your word. And we thank you, dear Lord, for the constant wisdom that you pour into our lives, that we might be able to make right decisions, dear Lord, from day to day. May you bless us, dear Lord, in all our judgments. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So we're looking at this topic again here, justify the wicked and condemn the just. So this is something that the Bible, God is not pleased with when we do this. And so I'll look at some things here with you this morning, some practical things about this aspect of our lives where we have to pass judgment. And what would be your judgment when you're in a certain situation where you have to pass a judgment? How will you judge? So this is what we'll be focusing on. So basically, I have one scenario I will share with you from a current events that's going on, and then the rest we'll take from the Bible. Now in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 13 through 15, Proverbs 17, verse 13 through 15, we read, "Whoso rewardeth evil for good, and evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with. He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to the Lord." Even them both are abomination to the Lord. So the Lord is disgusted with people who justify the wicked. That means that the wicked is done good, and those who condemn the just, the person that has done right. And so that's a very straightforward teaching in the Bible that we want to be able to focus on and meditate on this morning here. Now in Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 19, Deuteronomy 16, verse 19, it says, "Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the word of the righteous." So a gift can blind the eyes and pervert the word of the righteous. So it's not good to wrest judgment. In other words, some people, they have long deliberation to do the wrong thing. And thou shalt not respect a person. So no matter what the person is, what is the right judgment call? What is the right answer, or what is the right thing to do? Do you condemn or do you justify? So this is a good question that, or a good thing that always is put to us. Now also in John chapter 7, verse 24, John 7, verse 24, it says, "Judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment." So this is Christ here speaking in John chapter 7, verse 24. And if you remember clearly with Christ, is that the Pharisees, the religious elite, condemned Christ, a just man. They condemned him as a mass murderer. Basically, he got the penalty that Barabbas was supposed to get. And this is very interesting now that the story of Christ worked out, or the end of his life here on earth worked out, because it was not just that they condemned him. That was bad in itself, because they condemned a just man. But it was that they freed a unjust person. They freed a murderer, a mass murderer. A person was an insurrector. A person was trying to overthrow the Roman authority via war. And they freed him. So this make this text to me come alive, which is Proverbs 17, verse 15. He that justified the wicked. So in their blind hate for Christ, or the hate that was so blinding, they justified Barabbas. And then next it says, he that condemneth the just. and then they condemn Christ. It makes it more profound. And that's the sad thing about sin, that often the Lord allows situations to happen to make the sin more profound, because then something happened that make you scratch your head and say, what did they do? No, it can't be that bad. And then you say, wow, it is that bad. Even they both are an abomination to the Lord. So both, whoever do one or the other, the Pharisees more than do either way. But notice there it says in verse 14, the beginning of strife is when one letteth out water. Therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with. In other words, don't start none. If you don't start contention, then no contention come your way. There's always people who quick to say, you need to be a Christian, or, why don't you do the Christian thing? After they meddle with you. It's don't start none and there won't be none. People always like start arguments, and then when the argument come back hard at them, they say, oh, and they start screaming. So here he says, hey, look, which is the golden rule. You do the right thing. You do unto others what you like them to do unto you. Then it compounds it a little bit more in verse 13. Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. So when you in a business of rewarding is that somebody is worthy of something, and you reward somebody something that should not be rewarded. You reward evil for good. Evil shall not depart from your house. So as you know the story that happened to the Pharisees, they rewarded evil for what good Christ had done. Christ had preached the truth, healed the sick, feed the poor, take care of the leper, raise the dead, do all kind of stuff. So he was a blessing to Israel. And what the religious leaders did, they said, yeah, and they rewarded him evil. So what do you think happened? If you read the story, especially if you pick up the history, some of the historical accounts of what happened in Jerusalem after the death of Christ, you find real quickly that evil never depart from them. And the end result was the same Romans that they had used to kill Christ became their executor, or the ones that executed vengeance upon them. And that was the right thing to do. The same person that they, cobbled with to hurt or to do bad to Christ and the disciples is the same one that end up slaughtering them. And that was the way it's supposed to go, because the Bible is very clear here. Whoso rewarded evil for good, the evil shall not depart from his house. And that's how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to stay there because you're not right. So we never justify the wicked and condemn the just. We do the right thing, no matter what our opinion is of the person. But life sometimes don't come up at us that easily. But we have some things we're going to look at here this morning. Now in Matthew chapter 7, verse 8 through 14, Matthew 7, verse 8 through 14, we have a passage of scripture, and I take this passage of scripture for the most part as a body of talk that Christ is doing that is related to each other. Verse 8 says, for everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. So Christ is saying, our Heavenly Father is kind, He's kind, and you come and ask, they'll bless. Verse 9, or what man is there of you whom if his son asks bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks a fish, will give him a serpent? In other words, you don't do this because that wouldn't be right. That would not be nice also. So your son comes and say, hey, could I get a fish? And you say, oh yeah, here you go. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And a cobra bite him. That wouldn't be right. So verse 11, if you then being evil know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask? So this is why the Lord encourages us to pray. We pray because God will answer our prayers, especially if we are reasonable with our requests. And this is the reality. And so it says, you give good gifts to your children. You know what it's like. This is the time of year where people are massive when it comes on to gift giving. You're trying to give somebody a gift to make them happy and to feel appreciated and to love you more. So he says, if you understand this, then you approach God like that. He will bless you. Verse 12, therefore all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do even ye so to them. For this is the law and the prophet. So whatsoever. So this is what we call the golden rule. Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. So if you notice here in Proverbs, it says, you don't start trouble and meddle with it, and it won't meddle with you. You do what is right, and you will have right in your house. If you do what's right, then it will follow you. That's the law and the prophets. So to me, Proverbs is basically stating a different version of the golden rule. It is, you do good to others and it'll follow you. And if you understand this is why Christ now is going to say now that basically this is what, in another passage of scripture, I'll read it in a few minutes. This is why the old law and the testimony, the Old Testament, rest on this principle. So as you read in the Old Testament, someone might say, what am I getting here? And what you're getting there is constantly a reminder. The golden rule. The golden rule. That's what you're getting. Every passage, everything that you read, all the stories, is you look at the story, you see what happened to this person, what happened to them. It's the golden rule. They didn't do to others as they would like to be done to them, so they got it, and they got it hard. That's the golden rule. You see another story, somebody did well, and they were blessed. That's the golden rule. You see somebody got persecuted, and you say, well, he did good. What happened to him? Well, they didn't do right to him, so what happened? Read the story. You see next, death and destruction. Family, kids, everybody get wiped out. And you say, what happened? It's the golden rule. Somebody said, but that was harsh. Well, that's the golden rule. If they wanted good, they should have done good, but they wanted to do evil to people and then to enjoy good. And the Bible says it don't work like that. So Christ basically states this principle. I read it one more time. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do even so to them, for this is the law and the prophet. So if you're reading the law and the prophet and you don't get that, all you get is wars and stuff like that, you don't understand why the wars. The wars are there because the golden rule. It works in reverse also. You see, we just don't like to see it in reverse. We want to see somebody do bad and get good. It don't work like that. You do what you want to come back to you. So verse 13, Christ simply states after that, enter ye at the straight gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that lead to destruction, and many there be who go in thereat. So what is the straight gate? What is the gate that is narrow, the way that is narrow? It's simply do unto others how you like them to do unto you. It's very hard too, because the sinful nature pushes us in a different direction. But Christ says, if you're ready to go that hard way, that narrow way, the way that most people don't go, because most people like to be jerks and like to do bad to others, it's simply saying that you're following his way. Verse 14 said, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads unto life, and there few there be that find it, can't find it, blind to it. They can't see this. The profoundness of what we're talking about this morning here can't be seen. And the reason why, because people like to justify the wicked and condemn the just. Another way this is said is in Luke chapter 6 verse 31. Luke 6 verse 31 says, and as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. Whatever you like them to do, how you like to be treated, you treat others. And that's fair. So that means if you like to treat people rough, well, hello, here comes your rough treatment. And that's the reality. Then don't complain and say, oh, I had it hard. Or I'm having it hard. Well, how are you giving it to people? Oh, I give it hard. Well, it's a give and take, right? Now, some more principles there to share. But I want to go to an article here. And I think that principle is very clear. We don't have to belabor the principle. We have dealt with these principles multiple times here on the morning program on Wisdom for Living. But we're doing Wisdom for Living. This is the premise of what I do the whole station for. So I want to read an article here that is not as straightforward. And I'm going to read it and probably make some comments, probably not. And then I'm going to talk at the end. And I want you to think about this idea of justify the wicked and condemn the just. And now we're going to take a life application situation, something real that happened in life, and see how we apply that principle, because now this one here is a little bit difficult. So here we go. This is a major thing that happened yesterday, I think it was. And I'm pulling this from USA Today, written by Mike James. And it's entitled, Undocumented Immigrant not guilty of murder in polarizing San Francisco case, right? So you've heard about this case. So a San Francisco jury found an undocumented immigrant not guilty of murder Thursday in a case that sparked national debate about sanctuary cities and U.S. immigration policy. Jose Inez Garcia Zarat had been deported 5 times and was wanted for a 6th deportation when Kate Steinle, a 32-year-old, was fatally shot in the back in July 2015. Garcia did deny shooting Steinle and said it was an accident. The jury of 6 men, 6 women, including 3 immigrants, found Garcia Zarat not guilty of homicide. Steinle was killed while posing for a picture with her father on a San Francisco pier. Despite being acquitted of murder, Garcia Zarat, 54, was found guilty of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Pardon me. President Trump called the verdict disgraceful in a late Twitter post on Thursday, adding, "No wonder the people of our country are so angry with illegal immigration." Before the shooting, the San Francisco Sheriff Department had released him from jail despite a federal immigration request to detain him for deportation. San Francisco's sanctuary city law limits cooperation with U.S. immigration authorities. The case remained politically charged. An hour after the verdict, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions released a statement saying that sanctuary cities are causing harm to the American people. When jurisdictions choose to return criminal aliens to the streets rather than turning them over to the federal immigration authorities, they put the public safety at risk, Sessions said. San Francisco's decision to protect criminal aliens led to the preventable and heartbreaking death of Kate Steinle. I urge the leaders of the nation's communities to reflect on the outcome of this case and consider carefully the harm they are doing to the citizens by refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement officers. And it appears that finally Garcia Zarat will be deported. U.S. immigration officials said late Thursday that they will expel him from the U.S. Acting U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Thomas D. Homan said his agency will work to take custody of Mr. Garcia Zarat and ultimately remove him from the country. He also said San Francisco policy of refusing to honor ICE detainers is a blatant threat to public safety and undermines the rule of law. This tragedy could have been prevented. Steinle's father, Jim Stein, told the San Francisco Chronicle that the family was saddened and shocked by Thursday's verdict. He said justice was rendered, but not served. And I pause there before I keep reading the article. So remember, our topic is justify the wicked and condemn the just, right? So we keep going. The way you read and think here with me as I kind of go through this thing here. Garcia's lawyer Matt Gonzalez had argued that the defendant wasn't criminally responsible because he found a .4 caliber Sig Sauer and wasn't aware it was a gun when it accidentally went off. San Francisco Deputy District Attorney Diane Garcia said during the trial that she didn't know why Garcia Zarat fired the weapon, but he created a risk of death by bringing the firearm to the pier and twirling around on a chair for at least 20 minutes before he fired. He did kill someone. He took the life of a young, vibrant, beautiful, cherished woman by the name of Kate. Gonzalez said in his closing argument that he knows it's difficult to believe Garcia Zarat found an object that turned out to be a weapon, which fired when he picked it up. But he told jurors that Garcia Zarat had no motivation to kill Stanley, and that as awful as her death was, nothing you do is going to fix that. The bullet ricocheted on the pier's concrete walkway before it struck Stanley. The gun was stolen from the SUV of a U.S. Bureau of Land Management ranger that was parked in San Francisco. The city has been plagued by an epidemic of car burglaries in recent years. Before the shooting, Garcia Zaret had finished a federal prison sentence for illegal re-entry into the United States and had been transferred to San Francisco jail March 2015 to face a 20-year-old charge of selling marijuana. The sheriff department released him a few days later after prosecutors dropped the marijuana charge, despite a request from the federal immigration officials to detain him for deportation. Then presidential candidate Trump said during the campaign that Stanley's death was another reason the United States need to build a wall on its southern border and tighten its immigration policies. Trump signed an executive order to withhold funding from sanctuary cities, but a federal judge recently blocked it in a lawsuit from two California counties, San Francisco and Santa Clara. The administration has appealed. San Francisco became sanctuary city in 1989. Local ordinance prohibit employees from helping immigration and custom enforcement with immigration investigation or arrest unless such help is required by federal or state law or warrant. Zarat recently served 5 years in federal prison in Victorville, California. When he was released, ICE sent him to San Francisco in March 26, 2015 for a 1995 warrant accusing him of selling $20 worth of marijuana. ICE also requested an immigration detainer so the agency would be notified for the release. Here, and then it goes on to just a little more information. And so Gillian Christensen, an ICE spokesperson, has said the detainer wasn't honored. Her death was preventable and it should have been prevented, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in July. She would still be alive today if her killer had been imprisoned or deported as he should have been. So here's this article here, and this is a scenario that happened with this young lady. This young lady was killed tragically by a bullet from a gun that was found, and somehow, I don't know if the gun was found or was stolen by him. That detail is not fully given. But this gun was found. He was twirling the gun, they say, and then the bullet, somehow he pulled the trigger. The bullet went into a wall of the pier, ricocheted off the wall of the pier, and struck her in the back as she was posing in a picture with her father. And she died. I remember this case happened, and it was tragic. The details now coming out, or the details that came out, was that it was not, he did not point the gun per se at her and pull the trigger and blow her away. It was something of an accident, and the prosecutor, I guess, decided that she was going to go for a murder charge. Now, as you know, a murder charge is a charge where, by the law, the person has to have some intent. Intent has to be proven. That means it would have to be proven that when he found the gun, most naturally he knew it was a gun. His defense attorney say he was not know it was a gun. Some people say, well, how could he not know it was a gun after twirling it around for 20 minutes? Find something in a bag, so to speak, or whatever. It's a metal object. You didn't see it. You don't know it's a gun. Even by touch, you should be able to, if you're blind, know that this is a piece of equipment or something. Anyhow, so he has the gun, twirl the gun, he pulls the trigger somehow, or the metal object. It fires off, it hit the pier, ricocheted, and hit her. So right there and then, just not getting no more information, just right there and then, in my mind, that's not a murder case. It's not a homicide case. It's not a murder with intent. It's not a first-degree murder second-degree murder, hard to prove. I don't know how you prove that. Especially if he says in the beginning, it's an accident. I did fire the gun, but wasn't trying to kill the girl. There was no intention. I don't know who this person is. I wasn't trying to just kill somebody on the street. So this brings me now to this question here of justify the wicked and condemn the just. Hopefully in the first few minutes that I covered, you understand I'm very clear on the idea that it is immoral to justify the wicked and condemn the just. But now here in this case, as you know, the focal point they're saying that he should not have been in the country. He should not have been in the country, hence he would not be able to do it. And many people are saying the verdict, the majority, if you go on, like, say, the same article I pulled from USA Today, you go to the comment section, you'll find that most of the commenters are saying he should have gotten a guilty verdict. Which in my mind, I state up front, don't make no sense. That sounds like craziness to me. Like, why would he get a guilty verdict if he didn't murder the girl? This the most that what should have happened. And the question was, why did the prosecutor go for a murder? Why didn't he go for manslaughter, which is what this case is? This case is a killing by accident. So most of the commenters, as you probably will have seen, are saying that, and probably, I don't know what your opinion is, are saying that if he wasn't in the country, he would not be able to accidentally pull the trigger. Hence, it should be a murder. But again, that's not a murder. Murder doesn't have to do with who pulled it. If it was a 5-year-old kid that pulled it, if it was a person that had killed 2 people before, he pulled it and he pulled it by accident. If it was a person that was legal in the country, was born here. Whatever the scenario is, whether it be something weird, if it was a dog, say a dog had find a gun and somehow licking the trigger because somebody had put it's a piece of beef grease on the trigger. The dog tried to lick and bite and get the beef whatever grease off, and the dog pulled the trigger and it ricocheted off. You could not say, well, the dog needs to be put down because this dog is dangerous. This dog murdered somebody, and it's a threat to society. That is it's an accidental killing. It's a manslaughter. And so this has brought me many times to this type of thinking. Why is it that these prosecutors bring these cases and charge them the way they do? Because to me, ultimately, the charge is a reflection of not so much what is the right charge, but so much of what does the public want. It's almost like you're bringing a charge based upon what the public demand, not what is reasonable. So why was he tried for murder, not manslaughter, is my big puzzle. Because most people are like in shock that the jury of 12, 6 men, 6 women, 3 of the 9, 3 of the 12 were immigrants themselves. They were born here. The rest were citizens born here. And they says unanimously, no, this is not a guilty. This is not a murder. And that was it. Why? Now, there's other cases that have puzzled me similarly. Because just in case somebody's thinking ahead and saying, probably because I have a certain bent. No, I remember when the Casey Anthony case, this was a case, again, that bends the discussion of justify the wicked and condemn the just. The Casey Anthony case was a case where there was a young girl in Florida. She was into partying and stuff like that, and it seemed like she somehow buried a child. Her child got killed somehow. She died somehow, and she ended up trying to, I guess, dispose the body or something. And when it was time they tried her for murder again. They couldn't prove murder. There was no evidence. There was no clear-cut evidence. Somebody didn't witness something. There was not something that you could definitely say, yes, she definitely murdered the child. Her intention was to kill her baby. There was no motive in the sense of malice to kill her baby. It seemed like the child was getting her way of having fun. So they just decided to get rid of the child. So when that happened, I remember seeing that case again and saying, why did they try her for murder? Why didn't they go for a lesser charge to make sure that she paid for what happened? And I remember I was reading this year the judge in the case came out and says, what do you believe happened? He says he think a possibility of what happened was because she had logged, it was proven by forensic people who do things with computer, that she had gone on her computer and researched chloroform. Now, chloroform is that thing similar to what they use to put people on there when they're going to go into an operation. I don't know if they still use that. They probably use other drugs now. But it's something they used to use back in the past. And chloroform is something that you knock people out with. And so what she had researched online was that people use chloroform who had a very terrible problem with sleep to knock themselves out. And he believed that probably what she was doing was trying to knock the child out so she could put the child to sleep so she could go partying. And by accident, put the child on there and kill the child by accident. So if he had that, and there probably was evidence presented that probably got struck down and, all that stuff. And if the prosecutor knew this, that it was a possibility linked that, and put in the juror's mind that what really probably went down is that she probably killed her child by accident, why would a juror go for murder and not again go for something like manslaughter? Which is really more like what happened. Why would they go for that? Because then by doing that, you make it seem like she's not guilty of anything at all. Because you want to go for the enchilada. As I say, you want the whole pie. And by going for the whole pie, you kind of now in a spin way, not the way the general public think now, but in just my assumption, what you're doing is that in a sense, you're making it easy to let go somebody. Inadvertently, I believe. Let go somebody that's guilty of some crime and let them not pay zero, because you basically say if they get not guilty, they walk free, they're good. Why would you do that? And this is the type of verdict that I see. And as you know, this gentleman here, Michael Garcia, or if I'm getting his name right, this Garcia guy, he is from Mexico, he was born in Mexico, he's deported 5 times, and so forth. And it seemed like if I just go by unscientific polling, like most of the commenters online wanted him get murder, but murder was not the charge. It should never have been a charge from just the information I received. And somebody say, well, the prosecutor must be more intelligent. I mean, well, yeah, but many of them have been proven over the years to be probably more intelligent than the most people, but they're immoral. They're normal cretins. Because a lot of time they're going for what makes them look good. So next thing you know, they're going to run for mayor or something like that. And they've proven over the years to lock away people for charges they should never have been charged in the first place. But, they're trying to be, like television heroes. So the Casey Anthony verdict to me was one of those verdicts that it to me was not a denial of guilt, but it was more a statement of the judicial system per se, or the prosecutors out of control. And then they have a charge now, and they have this weight of burden to now prove murder when you can't prove murder. How are you going to prove murder when all the evidence is pointing to manslaughter? And so now you're going to have to try to convince a jury that it's murder. And then when the judge read the rules and the laws of the country, the juror are going to be like, oh, wow, this is going to be a headache. How are we going to prove murder? Because they're going for too much. And what it is they're doing inadvertently now, not per se how the text read, but by accident, so to speak, or inadvertently, they're freeing the wicked, so to speak, people doing wrong. And now the situation now with condemning the just, they could keep going for some of these cases and win some. In other words, what if with this Garcia situation, they had won the case? And when you look at the details of the case, you say, like, wait a minute. He might be guilty because he keep on breaking the law and he was careless and he's a fool. But is he guilty of murder? Oh, come on. And so, again, when you have a system that will normally put forward false charges, it tells you that you have a system in general that will put in jail the just. Another example of this that I saw happen in recent years is the case again of this young man called Trevor Martin and Zimmerman. I can't remember his first name all of a sudden, but George Zimmerman, I think it was. Now that case again is one of those cases that I think was strange, because That case, I think, again, would not be a homicide case. In other words, when Zimmerman went after him because he was a neighborhood watch after Trevor Martin, and he pursued him even when he was told not to pursue. That case, again, to me, is one of those cases where you really can't say that case is, the truest sense, is a plan for murder. Like, he murdered him, but was it when he left out of the home? Was he saying, I'm going to murder somebody tonight? No, probably if they had him on tape saying that. Then he murdered the guy, and then the jury said not guilty. Then you could say, okay, yeah, there was intent. So that definitely, I don't know if that passed. Some people believe it passed for a first-degree murder. I'm not sure if intentional to kill a person was there. Now, he probably could have gotten second degree, but definitely manslaughter. And I think that's where the problem is. So notice now, with the Trevor Martin case, the majority of the people, if you go again on USA Today and look at the commenters, you're going to find that most of them that are saying that this should have been, the Garcia case should have been a murder case. Most of them you're going to find lean conservative. And most of those people you're going to find were the ones that were saying, since I've been following them a lot, they were the ones that, I shouldn't say a lot, but I do take note of who making those comments. They were the ones that were saying that the Trevor Martin case was, no criminal crime was done. Which again is, on the other side of things, is irrational. A person that was told to stand down, back off, let the police come and take care of the business. A person that chased a person down at night, then get out of the car, went to have to accost them. Even if they didn't went to kill them, but they went to accost them. Then he got into a fight and he started losing. And then he took out his gun and shot the person. You couldn't say that was murder in the first degree. It is more second degree because he was warned not to go forward. And definitely manslaughter. Even second degree probably would be a difficulty. But manslaughter is definite. So it would have been just easier to say give him 5 to 10 years or whatever manslaughter is and be done with it. But they go for something now that was going to be harder to prove because, again, if they proved it, you know what would happen? Those who were carrying the case would have been seen as heroes. And I think that's where a lot of time people these prosecutors or defense attorneys, they're trying to be heroes. And in so being heroes, they get people off altogether. So they make them walk where they should not walk because there was some criminal guilt, some negligence, something that was there that the person should have had a guilty for something. But they go for something that's difficult, and they should be able to look at the case and say, yeah, this is going to be a slam dunk case, or this is going to be a difficult case. But I think by having this type of environment, so hopefully you follow me so far, I think by having this environment in our criminal justice system where they going after a case where it shouldn't have even be a charge. That charge should not be leveled, it should be a lesser charge. I think you set it up now for when you look at many of these cases where people get charged for murder, get the death penalty, and then when you review the case, you realize, wait a minute, I think that case was overcharged or should have been thrown out. And you say, oh, I see what's going on now. It is these hero judges and these hero lawyers that come up with this type of foolish charges and end up, I believe, putting away people for crimes that they should never have been put away for. That criminal intent could have been proven, or the person could have been shown that they were not guilty, but they went for it and hoped that I'm going to throw the ball to the juror, and the juror is going to catch the ball. Hopefully the ball don't drop to the ground. In the Garcia situation, the juror said, no, we ain't catching that ball. He's free. Now, many people in the society, especially those who are conservatives, are like, oh, look at what happened. They let this guy go. But you look at the case, and you say, if you're rational, the case has the shooting, what does it have to do with immigration? It doesn't matter if the case is simply, did the person murder the person? The answer is, according to what I've read, no. They murdered a person. Did he kill the person? Yeah. Was it a first-degree murder? No, it wasn't a first-degree murder. And that's how I see it. Now, I'm sure if you see it differently, As I always say, you can always inbox me or contact me and tell me otherwise. I'm delighted to hear other. So no matter how much these people are foaming at the mouth, it one thing that's having to do with anything. Whether he was, as I say, an American-born citizen, immigrant that became a citizen, whether he was illegal, whether he was a child, an adult, an elderly person, a mad person, it was a dog, a cat that pulled that trigger, ricochet off the wall. The mere fact that he did not point the gun in that intent, it wasn't say, well, I'm going to shoot it at the wall, it ricochet and hit her. You can't do murder for that, probably second degree, hard to prove. But murder murder as a manslaughter, easier to prove. Now, if the juror come and say not guilty of manslaughter, I would definitely say that's craziness, because not only was he there illegally, but he should have known what it was he had in his hand, and most actually killed her by accident. He still killed her. He was negligent. But first degree, second degree, hard to prove. Second degree, first degree, definitely not. So when we talk about justify the wicked, and justify the wicked and condemn the just, it is important for us, to me, to wrap our mind around some of these cases and learn to come to proper judgment based upon the scenario, not based upon how I feel about it, not based upon all the other situation that was going on. It's the same thing as somebody went in the car, drive, and caused an accident, killed somebody. It's not murder in the first degree. The person didn't drink with intention to kill somebody. The person didn't drive with intention to kill somebody. But it's murder, and you possibly could charge second degree, but you definitely can get them on a manslaughter charge and put them away for a few years. Definitely. No question about that. So one has to know that it is not the only factor, or it is not the intent. The intent was not for murder, but the results was murder. And so you have to be charged. So there's many of these cases in the future that we'll deal with, because this passage of scripture, similar scripture, comes up again. So you hear me, and at least that's a good thing about you listening to me. At least you hear my point of view, and I know most people who would be listening to something like this would not agree, because they believe since he was illegal, it was murder. But that's not the law of our land, and that's not a reasonable law, even if that was a law. But there's no law. So here it is justify the wicked or condemn the just. It is important for us, again, to have proper process so that we do not railroad people into jail. Because if you can say, well, it's a manslaughter clearly, but because he's an illegal person, he came here how many times, we're going to still give him murder, even though he didn't murder the person. Well, what you do the next time a case come up, it's easier now, because the system doesn't work, because the system becomes selective. When a person is innocent, you railroad them into prison. And if you get that, I'm going to say it one more time. If you have it where the principle of law is being ignored because of certain circumstances, and you take a person that is not guilty of murder, they didn't intend to kill a person, and you railroad them in prison because they're immigrant, they're illegal, they're black, they're whatever, they're minorities, whatever the mitigating circumstances. When you have a just person, you've set up a system that makes it easier to condemn the just. And that's how many people in their personal life make judgment. They could say bad things about the person that is not, they could tell a lie in a person easily if they think there's a justifiable reason. In other words, I could lie on a person because the person is a bum. The person literally is a bum. He lives on the side of the street, so I can lie on him. So if something happened, I can say, hey, the bum did it. Because I know most people don't believe the bum did it. And that's where the problem comes in. I could tell lie on a person because the person is poor. Because I know, well, it's poor, so somebody can believe the lie. Easier. I could tell lie on a person because they're a minority, because they're a foreigner, because they're this. When you have judgment that is not based upon what is the discussion here? The discussion here is the person's status, or the discussion is the person's action. If you're only discussing the person's action, then you judge the action. But if you say, well, the actions are bad and it's a manslaughter, but because the person was illegal, it's murder. Now you are the prosecutor now has to go into court and prove to the juror that because the person is illegal, there shouldn't be a manslaughter case, there should be a murder case. And the prosecutor now have to put forward arguments to convince the jury and the jurors that this case is worthy of the death penalty, or this case is worthy of life imprisonment because this person was in the country legal. See, that's two different arguments. You see, it would be like going to the jury and say, hey, jury, this crime happened where this person killed this person by accident. And I can't imagine being in America in the 50s and 60s. And if you're a black person that manslaughtered somebody, you could see the jury would say, well, yeah, it's manslaughter, but he's black. Boom, death penalty. You see, that's where the problem comes in. And that's why I guess I look at it slightly, big time different from most probably people who are conservative or, true-blooded American. Because how I look at it is that, again, if a person is poor and, somehow they by accident, say, a store owner put out in the front like some cases of soda, and the person accidentally thought, oh, he was throwing it away, and took up on the case of soda and walk away. And then it came back and they say, oh, no, he stole the soda. And they said, no, I didn't steal it. He put it out in front and I thought he was throwing it out. So I took it. But somebody's going to say, well, he took it. And you say, yeah, he took it. But I could see how accidentally he could take it. So you could give him like a misdemeanor. But they say, oh, no, it's grand theft, whatever. And then the prosecutor not going to have a burden of bear to try to prove grand theft. And if you rule based upon, well, he was poor, so he must be stealing it. Or he's homeless. That's why he did it. Well, but the issue is, I could see the confusion where the person like, no, I thought literally put it out there, was getting rid of it. And that's why I took it up. I didn't know why I was putting it out in the front. And you would say, okay, give him a misdemeanor, fine. It's a misunderstanding. And I'd be like, no misdemeanor. We want it because he's poor. See, when you make judgment based upon those type of situation, it's easy now to take somebody, because I've seen people personally do this, where they say, I don't like that person. And I say, why? Because they did such and such and such. And so I believe they're probably still doing something, but they have no real evidence that that's what's happening. And they railroad somebody's character in the ground. And that's why it's important when you're making judgment, you do not justify the wicked and condemn the just. It's always important to be even keel in your judgment so that when a situation comes up, you don't make a mistake, or you don't make prejudice, or you don't make hate of a certain group cause you to be blind. Because that's what blind justice. If somebody comes and says, hey, this black guy over here, he just raped my wife, while it was his neighbor that had sex with his wife, and the wife lied because she got caught. And everybody said, oh yeah, half to the gallows with him. Because he's black. That must be what black people do. That's how that type of situation works. So right now in our country, the whole idea is that America is being destroyed from the inside by immigrants. That's what makes America not great. And so anything that immigrant does now, you can't really look at the case. What you have to do is look at the fact that they're here illegally. Bam, they're guilty of murder. And that's how I see it. Now, you probably see it differently. I would love to have this conversation with you. This is one of those discussions, like many have in the morning here, that I wish I wasn't talking to a mic and to a camera. I wish I was talking directly to you, because I would really like to hear your side of the argument. And you can post stuff as I post it online. Just go online and drop me a post. Even drop it on one of the blog posts, because I post it to the blog, I post this to the video, I post this on YouTube, I post it all over the place. Man, drop me a comment. I'd like to hear. Give me a call. Text me what you think about this. Is he a murderer because he's illegal? Because most actually he didn't kill her by accident. He didn't go intention to kill her. According to the prosecutor and according to the defense, he pulled the trigger, ricocheted, he hit her. Okay, it's not first degree, so definitely not first degree. So how would you argue this? If you were for it, how would you argue that it's first degree because he pulled the trigger, and then number two, it's our second degree because he pulled the trigger, or second degree because he's in the country illegally. I'd like to hear what the arguments for that. What makes it second-degree murder because he's illegal? He came to the country illegally 5 times. He don't care. He's callous. Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 through 40. Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 through 40. It says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So this is again one of the interesting scenarios. Because the story was a lawyer. He would be one of these people that's either defending somebody or prosecuting somebody. So you understand the function of the law. That is his job. Every day he gets up, that's all he studies. And so he might approach the Bible from a different point of view. His point of view is law. And so he asks Christ this beautiful question. And Christ says basically, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Most naturally, as far as Samaritan discussion would have come up. Because a person, normally in life, this is not something unique in any country. In so many countries, people hate one group for another, hate one city against another. So people work. So when it comes on to justice, justice can be perverted by hate. If a person hates another group, it's easier for them to see them as evil, wicked, and easy to condemn them unjustly. Because if a person does wrong, you have to condemn. That's the reality, especially in a court of law. So Christ simply says that you love thy neighbor. So most actually would ask, who is thy neighbor? And he says, well, in essence, the Samaritan is your neighbor. So today the question would be, in a situation like that, if I'm on the jury, who is my neighbor? The Mexican is my neighbor. But who's my neighbor also? The Stanley lady that got shot. She's my neighbor. Her parents is my neighbor. Her parents are suffering the loss of the daughter unnecessarily. Just totally a stupid thing to do. Swinging around a gun and by accident pull the trigger. He could have pulled the trigger and blow his brains out. Probably which would have been better. But who is my neighbor? My neighbor is that person that probably is looked upon most negatively. That's what Christ is basically saying. So if I was in Rwanda, which is a famous country for this type of thing, in recent memory, my neighbor would be the Hutu and the Tutsi, or whatever their name is. That would be your neighbor. If you were in Germany in the time of Hitler, your neighbor, if you were a German, would be a Jew, or if you were a Jew, it would be the German. This is what Christ is basically saying. Your neighbor is a person often that you must think about as your neighbor. As difficult as it is a person that probably hates you the most. And then you have to ask yourself the question, could you render good judgment to your neighbor? That person that, not you hate them the most, they hate you the most. And they hate your guts. If you had the opportunity to render judgment, and this person is guilty of manslaughter, would you sit in the court and say first-degree murder, second-degree murder? That's the test of who is your neighbor. That's the test of do you justify the wicked or condemn the just? Because the test is, how will you treat your neighbor? And the answer Christ simply says is, you treat him how you would want to be treated. That's how you treat your neighbor. And as I say, how you would want. And the best way is to say, who hates you the most? Who is the person that when they see you, it turns their stomach? It could be the person that is an in-law, person that's a family member that's treated you bad, somebody that abused you. What if somebody that abused you, physically, sexually, whatever, lie on you, treated you bad, and they were sitting in a juror box, and this person is a dog of a person, and they say to you that this person here killed somebody by accident, but the prosecutor brought a second degree. And you know in your heart of heart that this person here is a horrible person, but all the evidence point that this person killed by accident is a manslaughter. Could you look at that and says, my vote as a juror is manslaughter, not second degree? And not only go beyond that, but throw the case all out and say, nope, he's guilty, he walks because the prosecutor messed up. Because that's the question. Because the prosecutor basically puts the jury is put in a position that they have to vote yes on murder, even if they know that all the evidence point to manslaughter. And they know that if they say no to murder, the person walks as if they're free. Because when you look at the case, the various cases that happen, when you look at the case with Casey Anthony, when you look at the case with Trevor Martin, the issue was not guilty or not guilty. The issue was what did the prosecutor bring to the fore? Because sometimes what we're dealing with is legality, not so much what is the right thing. Is that the legal thing is that you can't give the death penalty for somebody that did a crime that was worthy of life imprisonment or say 10 years in prison. You can't. But the prosecutor, I think they play games and they bring these cases and put before the jury these stupid, silly judgments and force the jury to have to make a decision between not guilty and, guilty, and that's it. Yes or no. And I'm like, not every question is a yes or no. Get out of here. And that's the problem. So if think about it, it's already come on to the law of the land. If you think about what recently happened in America with the election, many people were up in arms because the election, the majority vote went to Hillary, but the minority vote went to Donald Trump, but he won the electoral college. But that's the law of the land. The law of the land is that whoever wins the electoral college win the presidency for the reasonable reason that the founding fathers gave. So that's the law. That's how the law works. So some say, yeah, but he didn't get the majority. It doesn't matter. The law of the land states that this is the reality and you have to go with the law. So if the law states that murder in the first degree it has to be planned, it has to be something that the person intended to. Murder in the second degree is that probably is a crime of passion or something. And then murder and then manslaughter is whatever. You gotta judge based upon that, but you can't say, well, Garcia is guilty based off murder because he's illegal in the country. What has to do with murder in the first degree or probably even second degree? Important. Romans chapter 13 verse 8 and 9. Romans 13 verse 8 and 9 says, "Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. For this thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet, and if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this same, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." So Christ already defined who is your neighbor, the person that hates you the most, the person that want to ill-treat you the most. That's your neighbor. Can you be kind to him? If he's in need, can you do the right thing? Galatians chapter 5 verse 14. Galatians 5 verse 14 says, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." Most of that one word would be love. It is fulfilling this one statement, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This is really what tests if we are Christians or not, if we are men or we are mouse, if we are loving or we are hateful. It's not so much what others do to me, but it's can I render a right judgment in spite of the social norm, the social opinion, what the general consensus of the public is. The issue is what is put in front of me, what is the right thing. And the issue again, I think often is the prosecutors, they come with these weird, charges and expect, I guess, to brinksman to force the jury and the jurors to come to a conclusion that really is they're just like roughing up the jury or saying basically, if you don't give this person the death penalty or you don't give this person a murder, they're going to walk free. Do you want this monster to walk free? And the answer is, yeah, if you do it like that, they're going to walk free. And this is why I think over the years you keep having these weird verdicts because the prosecutors are causing these people to walk free when they should never have walked free. And this is something that, again, to me is justify the wicked and it condemns the just. Because sometimes people condemn the just in ways that you say, he got 25 years for what? How can this happen? This is blind justice. And I get more and more understanding why these crazy sometimes penalties are issues, because the prosecutors push the envelope and win sometimes. Let us pray. We thank you, Lord, again for your love, for your blessings, for your mercy, for your way you continue to guide us. We pray, dear Father, that you may be with our minds, dear Lord, that we might understand best these things and apply your word in a proper, even way, despite of all what's going on around us and even the public consensus. May you bless us, dear Father, as we go through the rest of this preparation day. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning, where we should talk to you Monday morning, where we should talk about motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.